How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new featured archetype video. We're going to be taking a look at the Souten archetype, which I'm not sure when it comes out. I think it actually comes out the set after Rise of the Duelist, and I realized I haven't done one of these since the Adamantia, or as it is now known, the Adamancipator featured archetype, which it's kind of funny looking back on that one because I stated in the title, I'm like, this deck is looking pretty strong after that ban list we got back in January, and turns out, you know, lo and behold, it's actually tier 1 as we speak. So not to say that I'm, you know, I was 100% right on that one, but, you know, I'll just leave that one out there for you guys. But as per usual with these types of videos, I'm going to go through and read all the cards currently available, you know, in the OCG, or all the cards that really have been announced up until this point, and I'm going to look over them and give my real-time feedback with you guys. I've seen a few cards here and there. I've seen a few of the effects, but I don't think I've read everything up until this point, so I'm going to give you guys, like I said, my opinion, my overall first impressions of the archetype. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. But first, quick shout out to Imperium Duelist. If you guys are interested in picking up some amazing playmat sleeves, deck boxes, dice, or stickers, their newest release of stickers themed after classic spells and traps. They're available on their site right now. And I actually use these stickers to put on my binder, and they do look really nice. Help to spice things up a bit. So if you guys want to support the channel and get some amazing gear out of it in the process, use that discount code at ImperiumDuelist.com to help out support the channel and save money in the process. And of course, use that affiliate link to TCG Player down in the description below anytime you're buying any cards, because a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back into supporting me and the channel, and of course is greatly appreciated. And if you want to get behind the scenes posts, you know, on upcoming projects, early deck profiles, blooper reels, a dedicated spot for your name at the end of all my videos, consider hitting that join button down below for more information. But let's go ahead and take a look here. I've got everything pulled up on Yugipedia on my phone, which is a great app, by the way. If you guys you know, need to search up any cards really quickly, I highly recommend you guys use this Yugipedia app. I'm not sponsored to say that. It's just an app I've been using for a little while, and if some of you guys haven't, you know, heard about it, you should definitely try it out, because it's a great app just for a good database, and you can build deck lists on it and stuff too, and do test hands as well. So it's a pretty cool app, 100%. So we'll start with the monsters, the spells, the traps. We'll go into the extra deck as per usual. So the first one here we have is Kuokoku of the Souten kicks. I probably butchered that. And it's a level 3 light warrior, so I already like it because it's level 3, and that means Cherubini can send it from our deck to the graveyard, which is already nice. But it has 800 attack and 2000 defense, and it says, during your opponent's turn, if a face-up Souten monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect except itself, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can destroy one Souten monster you control, and if you do, special summon one Souten fusion monster from your extra deck. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Souten trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Kuokoku of the Souten kicks once per turn. So yeah, that name, I hope they changed that name in the TCG, because that way I'll actually probably be able to pronounce it, because right now it's not really looking like I'm going to be able to pronounce it very easily. But its stats, as far as I'm concerned, they aren't the greatest. It does have a nice bit of defense. It is a warrior, of course, most notably, so we can, you know, use something like Reinforcement of the Army to get it. I do like that upon normal summon, it can just grab a trap outright. We see very few strategies that search in archetype traps. And if they do, they usually go about getting them in some other way, shape, or form, you know, via putting a card back into the deck like Orcust, or some other cost you have to pay. It's very rare that you see sort of like a Stratos for main deck traps. I know, you know, like Trap Tricks is one of those decks that does that, but I mean, really outside of that, I don't know too many decks that can do that outright. But it does have a little bit of a, during the opponent's turn, with a little bit of an interaction. You know, with a face-up Souten monster or monster you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to special summon it from your hand for free. Then you can destroy an additional Souten monster you control, so you can even destroy this card itself just to bring out a fusion monster from your extra deck. So if your opponent, you know, lightning storms your field, you can summon this card out from your hand, destroy it, and summon out a Souten fusion monster as a result, and still keep your board relatively alive, even though you might have gotten something removed in the battle phase, or whatever it may be, by battle or card effect, you can get this card on the field and essentially replace it with any fusion monster from your extra deck. And then we do have a few fusion monsters in this archetype already, so it is looking pretty promising. So I do like that card. Doesn't seem too bad. Now we'll go to the next one here, which is Yuhi of the Souten Fists, level 4 warrior effect, 1800 attack, 1000 defense. So you can target a Souten monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, add a Souten spell from your deck to your hand. If a face-up Souten fusion monster or monster you control that was fusion summoned using an effect monster as material is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. Alright, so we have basically a Rhoda for the traps in the Souten kicks, but here with the Souten Fists we have basically a Rhoda for the spells within the archetype. But this one does require a bit more setup, it seems, because you need to destroy an additional Souten monster. And it looks like you can destroy itself. So at most you're going to be able to destroy, you can destroy this card outright just to go ahead and search any Souten spell and add it from your deck to your hand. So it's not too bad. I like the fact that it doesn't say you can target one other Souten monster, because that would mean you've probably already had to extend it a bit into your play to even search the spell to begin with, making it a little worse, obviously, increasing that activation requirement that I talk about in all my deck profiles. So making this card a little more versatile, a little more easily accessible to sort of facilitate the deck's engine overall. So we have a way to search spells, we have a way to search traps. And then it says if a face-up Souten fusion monster or monsters you control that was fusion summoned using an effect monster's materials destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can add it to your hand. So anytime you get a Souten monster or a fusion monster out, if you're using Souten kicks, if that card gets destroyed while this card is in the grave, you just get to add it right back to your hand for later use, for whatever use it may offer. It obviously depends, but it can recur itself back to the hand upon destruction, which is nice. So it essentially replaces whatever card you're losing to destruction, which, again, it seems pretty good. Pretty good to me anyways. It doesn't seem terrible. I mean, of course, there are better cards in the game, but not too bad for this sort of out-of-the-blue archetype here. Now, I think that is the only main decked monster. Yeah, we have 2 main decked monsters, 3 fusions in the extra deck. Notably, they're all light monsters in the extra deck as well. So everything is light. There's no mix matching of, attributes or types or anything. It's just all warriors, all lights. So that lends itself to its own sort of strategies and own sort of weaknesses, I guess. There can be only one. Definitely going to be hurting this deck. Things like Rivalry and Gozen, though, however, not going to be able to be abused against this deck and could be used even to its own advantage. So that's something to keep in mind already. But we'll go into the first spell here, which is a normal spell called Souten Calling. It says discard 1 card, and if you do, special summon as many Souten Spirit tokens, Warrior Light, level 2, attack 0, defense 0, as possible. Then you can apply this effect up to twice per turn, I would assume. Fusion summon 1 Souten fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. For the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. You cannot tribute tokens you control. Also, they are destroyed during the end phase. You can activate 1 Souten Calling once per turn. So, we have what seems to be an in-archetype scapegoat at the cost of discarding 1 card. And it doesn't even seem that bad because the other Souten monster we looked at adds itself back from the graveyard upon destruction of one of your Souten fusion monsters. So, essentially the discard in some cases could just be negated by the fact that whatever card you end up discarding could eventually find its way back to your hand as just a result of you losing a card in the battle phase or by card effect. So, but let's take a look at that again. Discard a card, special summon as many Souten Spirit tokens as possible. Then you can apply the effect twice to basically fusion summon Souten monsters from your extra deck. You do get locked into fusions, which is not a big deal because this deck has 3 fusion monsters already to work with, and not to mention, it seems like you could possibly mix this archetype with another fusion strategy that I'm sure we're all super excited to see for the billionth time to be integrated with some other archetype, and that is Invoked. That's just the first thing that comes to my mind. We have a lot of light monsters, Mechaba being basically the poster child of Invoked Fusion, so obviously there's fusion fodder set up for you in the graveyard already. But that's just something that comes to mind. I have no idea if that would logistically work together with the archetype. I haven't done much testing with this deck at all, really. Haven't seen much of it. Only just read some of the effects just now, but that's just one of the first things that just comes to my mind is a possible invoked synergy. But then again, who knows? I could be completely wrong. But basically, a scapegoat that turns into a mass polymerization. That does not seem half bad, if you ask me. You lose all the tokens in the end phase, and they cannot be tributed, which is a fair bit of restriction. Overall, not a bad card. So now we'll look at this next one. I like the name of this one. Souten Exorcism. Quick play. Target a Souten monster you control and one card your opponent controls. Destroy them, and if you destroyed a Souten fusion monster you controlled, you can apply one of these effects. Draw a card. Banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. That does not seem too bad either. So we have a bit of built-in removal, and even just a little bit of extension in the process. It's basically a Scrap Dragon built into a quick play spell. Destroy a fusion monster that you control. Destroy a card in your opponent's side of the field. That does not seem too bad, and you get basically a bonus effect out of it. You can essentially clear 2 cards off of this one. Granted, you're committing 2 cards to the play, so clearing 2 cards of your opponent sort of balances everything out, but you can also have the opportunity to draw a card. But, I mean, banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard isn't too bad because there's a lot of good graveyard strategies and a lot of good decks that rely on things in the graveyard to begin with. Block Dragon, Invoked, things like that. Owlitch, specifically, banishing the Golden Lord, banishing their traps before they have a chance to use them in the end phase, whatever it may be. So a pretty solid card, and it's also a quick play, which doesn't hurt as well. So I'm a fan of that card. And then our last spell here is a field spell. It is titled 2 as 1. It does not have Souten in the name. That is important to sort of keep in mind because we can't actually search this off of the Yuhi, the one that searches the Souten spells, because it is not a Souten spell. It doesn't say in the text anywhere that is treated as a Souten card, like something like Fusion of Fire or Burning Draw. Just a few examples. So keep that in mind. We can really only get this off of Terraforming and any other card that would search a field spell. So we have a normal spell, a quick play, and a field. And this one says, when this card is activated, you can add a Souten monster from your deck to your hand. Obviously, that seems really nice. We basically have our Rhoda for the deck, your generic search card. That's going to help facilitate the engine. Very easy activation requirement. 100% a starter card, in my opinion. If you control a Souten effect monster, you can special summon 1 Souten Spirit token. Level 2, light, attack 0, defense 0, warrior monster. Yeah, it seems like there can be only one would really wreck this deck. But again, there can be only one seems to really hurt a lot of decks. In the time that it's been around anyway, so it's not a huge surprise, I guess, but again, just figured I'd point that out. But it says, also you can special summon monsters in the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except fusion monsters. Even if this card leaves the field, you can only use this effect of 2 as 1 once per turn. And you can only activate 1 2 as 1 per turn. So the little bit more restrictive there with the, the card text, and not turning into essentially a Dragonic diagram where you can play a diagram, pop a card, play another diagram over top of it, and keep abusing the field spell, limiting it to really it's only 1 use per turn and only once that turn, even if you have multiple copies. So I like that bit of balancing there. It doesn't seem too overboard, because sometimes they really make the restrictions on cards like a little too much, and it just kind of, you realize it just kind of kills the deck out of the gate before it has a chance to gain any ground. But that's not too bad, in my personal opinion. But it basically gets you a spirit token on the board if you control a Souten effect monster, which isn't too hard to get to. And basically you just get tokens out of it, which, as far as I'm concerned, can be used to fusion summon, for your Souten fusion. So you're basically just getting free fusion fodder onto the field. Again, you do get locked into fusions, but again, I don't really see that being a problem since there are plenty of fusions for this deck to access. It's just really all about how much synergy do these Souten fusion monsters have, and how good are they actually is one thing we'll just have to find out. And now we'll go into the traps here, which we only have 2, and I believe they're both normal traps. We have Souten Returns. Target 1 Souten monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Then if you special summon a Souten monster with an original level of 4 or lower by this effect, you can special summon 1 Souten spirit token. Same stats, warrior, light, level 2, attack 0, defense 0. You can only activate 1 Souten returns per turn. So this just seems like a Call the Haunted, a generic revival trap for the deck. Again, very easily searchable through the Souten kicks. I like that a lot of these really good facilitating card, spell, and traps for the archetype are mainly searchable outside of the 2-1 field spell. But very, very good. I like that a lot of these things are searchable. Because one of the problems I find with a lot of these archetypes is they get good spell and trap support, but oftentimes they aren't searchable, slowing down the deck's overall consistency and slowing down its ability to get its engine up and running as quickly as possible, making it a little less good out of the gate. But it's just a generic revival for Souten. Obviously, you won't be able to revive any of the fusion monsters because they're all above level 4. But it also gets you a token in the process. So basically, you can set up an entire fusion summon off of this one card with a token and the monster that you bring back. So that's great. Then we have Souten's Duty, the last normal trap. It says, during the main phase, banish one Souten spell trap from your graveyard except itself. This card's effect becomes that spell trap's effect when this card is activated. So this one could basically copy any Souten spell or trap in the grave. So you can copy Calling, to basically, trigger like a scapegoat-like effect and then do a mass fusion summon, which is nice. So you can essentially, double what you get out of your Souten cards. And that would actually, I would think, get around, the restriction-like effect for something like Souten Returns, which says you can only activate one, in quotes, Souten's Returns per turn. Because you're not activating Return, you're activating Duty. It's just copying the effect of Return. So that could potentially get around that, hard once per turn restriction. Same thing with Souten Calling and Exorcism as well, if I'm reading that correctly. Yeah, because it doesn't say banish, and you can copy a normal spell or trap or banish a normal spell or trap. So you can banish the quick play. Obviously, you can't do the field spell because it's not a Souten card, which again is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, the nicest thing about this, it can let you get around the once per turn like effect of a lot of the other Souten spells and traps, and use them more than once. So I do really, really like that. This card seems very, very good, and I could see it probably be played at a couple copies in the main deck, which is nice. Use multiple Callings, Exorcisms, or Returns, whatever it may be. So yeah, that's it for all the main deck support. Now we'll go into the 3 fusions that we have at the point of me making this video. We have Gaia of the Souten Fist, Gaiun of the Souten Kicks, and Kongu, Heavenly General of the Souten. So we'll take a look at the fusions now. And one thing I want to point out about the fusions is they all just require basically 2 Souten monsters, at least for Gaia and Gaiun. They just take 2 Souten monsters. So that's why that token generation is so important, because you're just getting yourself free fusion fodder to easily make these guys. Although there's one difference, is Kongu, Heavenly General of the Souten, as it requires Yui of the Souten Fist plus 2 Souten monsters. So that one has a much higher requirement to be able to fusion into. But again, you really only need Yui. The other 2, again, they can just be random tokens. They do not have to have different names or anything like that, which is nice. So getting back to Gaia, it says, if this card is special summon, you can target one attack position monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So it hits the board and it removes a card, which is really, really good to see. But it can't attack directly for the rest of the turn. That's not too big of a deal. That's not really a groundbreaking like effect. This card potentially could just be used for another fusion summon into another better fusion to deal more damage with. Then it says you can only use this effect of Gaia of the Souten Fist once per turn while you control a Souten fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster or monsters as material. All Souten fusion monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. So it seems like here we might have a theme of, encouraging people that play this deck to not just use the tokens to make these monsters, as you'll get an additional bonus of making them using a Souten effect monster. So if you fusion for a Souten monster using like one of the fusions and a token, you may get some additional bonus, or some of the other main deck monsters as well. We'll see if that applies to the other 2, which I'm assuming it will. We have Gaiun of the Souten Kicks, a level 6 light warrior fusion effect, 1700 attack, 2100 defense, so pretty decent stats. 2 Souten monsters. If a Souten fusion monster or monster you control will be destroyed by battle card effect, you can destroy one other Souten monster you control instead, so it can kind of dodge destruction and protect your field essentially, which is nice. And then it says, during the main phase, if you control a Souten fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster or monsters as material, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, negate its effects until the end of this turn. So basically you can turn any one of your, basically turn this fusion monster particularly into a Necroz of Clauseless if you use a effect monster for its summon. So yeah, as I was expecting, it seems like they're all going to have that theme where if you use an effect monster to go into them, you will get some added benefit to truly unlock the potential of these fusion monsters, if that makes any sense. So yeah, if you control a Souten fusion monster, that was, yeah, so this goes for really, if you control any other Souten fusion monster that was you know, fusion summoned using an effect monster. So this one itself doesn't even have to, you could just use 2 tokens to get this one, and so long as you have another one that was used, you know, summoned using an effect monster, you'll get that added benefit out of it, which is great, because a Necros like Clauseless effect is not too bad, especially in today's meta, and especially since it's a quick effect. I actually want to go back and check something. While you control a Souten fusion monster, yeah, so the other one is like that too. Gaia is like that. You don't, itself doesn't need to be fusion summoned with an effect monster, so long as you have any other Souten fusion that was, you know, summoned using an effect monster. Okay, and I'm assuming Kungu, Heavenly General of the Souten, will be like that as well. It says Warrior Fusion effect, 3,000 attack, 1,700 defense, so clearly the main boss monster for the Archetype here. It takes Yui of the Souten Fist. On here it says Yubi of the Souten Fist. I'm assuming that might be a little bit of a typo. And it says +2 Souten monsters, so you need 3 materials to get into this. And one of them has to be an effect monster based on what it says here, so you'll be getting that added benefit from your other fusion monsters because of this card, as a result, it needing an effect monster to be able to be summoned. If this card battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So it's like an Armades-like effect, which isn't totally bad. And then it says, after damage calc, if this card attacked, you can return 1 monster your opponent controls to the hand. That's pretty nice. Little form removal basically becomes a compulse. And when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect that targets this card on the field while you control 2 or more fusion monsters, quick effect, you can negate the activation. It does not destroy, just negates the activation, so keep that in mind, but a negate nonetheless. You can only use the effect of Kogu, leader of the Souten, once per turn. So you do need 2 other Souten monsters, 2 or more fusion monsters. They don't even have to be Souten fusions, they just have to be fusion monsters in general. So that's interesting as well. It's not bad. It just requires a little bit of setup to be able to get that benefit out of it, because, you know, being able to turn off any spell or trap card effect that targets this card on the field, I mean, that's a little specific. It definitely could be better, but it's not bad. It has built-in protection. It won't require the presence, though, of another fusion monster on the field, whether it be a Souten monster or perhaps something you got off of like an invoked fusion play, whatever it may be. Or even like maybe an instant fusion or something, I don't know, just throwing out random examples. But overall, it doesn't seem too bad. I think the gimmick so far with using like the token spam and getting into the fusion seems pretty good. Some of the spells are looking very promising. Souten's Duty specifically is one of those cards, basically allowing you to dodge around the once per turn you know, restrictions on these spells and traps that are actually pretty good. Which is kind of promising to see, especially for a card like Souten Calling, which basically can be sprung on the opponent's turn, since it'll be basically like a trap. It'll be, you know, have the properties of a trap when using Duty to use Calling. You know, discard a card, special summon as many Souten Spirit tokens as possible. So you could just summon up to 5 Souten Spirit tokens, and then fusion out 2 of them very, very easily. So that really easily sets up Kungu to come out to be able to have its effect fully in use for that protection-like effect, you know, for when a spell or trap effect activates that targets this card. So it doesn't seem like you'll have any issue, really, getting into multiple fusion monsters. It's just going to come with getting, you know, an effect monster used as one of those materials. That's why I think Kokoku is going to be pretty pivotal to the strategy, because it's just going to be able to search out, or not Koku, it's the Koku, whatever. That's just what I'm going to call him from now, just Koku, even though that's not how you pronounce it whatsoever. But the Yui actually seems like it's probably going to be one of the better ones. Target a Souten monster, you control it, destroy it, and if you do, add a Souten spell from your deck to your hand. The thing with this, though, is it's going to be, I'm just trying to think of an easy way to set up, like, early access to the fusion summon, and just a really easy way to grab Calling, because we know that Yui can grab any Souten spell or spell from your deck and add it to your hand. You just had to destroy another Souten monster, or you just destroy any Souten. So you can basically just normal summon Yui, destroy it, search that, and then play it, and then just start fusion summoning. But again, you miss out on that effect monster, which you'd obviously want for those extra effects that those other fusions offer, and they are, I think, worthwhile effects to try to go after. But yeah, 2 is 1, I think, could probably solve that, because when this card is activated, you get to add the Souten monster, and then if you control a Souten effect monster, you can special summon a spirit token, which would basically allow Yui to pop the token, grab the Souten calling, play that, and then just sort of go off. You've got your effect monster on board to go into, you know, into any of your fusions, whether it be a Kongu and a Gaia. And so I don't think this deck will have any problem outright getting into the cards it will need. You're definitely going to want to max out on 2 as 1 and Yui, I think 100%. Now, will this deck be a going first or going second deck? That's a different story. I think I could see it possibly being a going first deck, maybe a going second strategy as well. But I don't know. I think going first would probably be a little better. I think maybe start there, maybe load it with some hand traps and some other traps as well. Maybe Rivalry and Goes, and they're just some of the things that are coming to mind. But yeah, overall seems like a pretty good archetype. I don't know where it will stand. I don't think it's going to come out and be too meta breaking unless the next round of support it gets is going to be really, really promising. But overall, that's sort of my first take and first look, really. First detailed look at Souten. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Any sort of synergy that you guys are thinking about that I maybe didn't think of in this video that this archetype could be, you know, paired with. If so, feel free to let everybody know down in the comments. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you guys enjoy this sort of new style of featured archetype that I've been doing, at least for the past, the previous one that I did a few months back, and this one, as opposed to just like reading the cards on YGO Pro. So it makes things a little more interesting for everybody. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, please. It is greatly appreciated. And yeah, join Discord. Link to that down below. Follow me on Twitch also. And yeah, as always, guys, Winter Kill sign out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And of course, a special thanks to my Divine level channel members on YouTube, Academic Thick, Travis Harris, and Zors. Thank you guys so much for the generous support.